Okay, think now it works. Yeah, this is general Q&A kind of stuff, live stream, and we're sowing out. I want to do this pretty much daily now. And if you have questions, just send them in through the comments. I try to get back, but in the meantime, we will just sowing out. We will sow out all through the winter. So this is just soil. This is cemetery soil in my case, but you can replace that with standard sowing soil. So let me get a few pots here. Okay. Yeah, and I just want to do this live stream thing on a regular basis now. Next year, we will live stream with plants, just outside, just nature and all that stuff. But yeah, over winter, there's a lot of work to do. Want to do that too. And I'm also, trying to be like, I don't know, I want people to get to know me. So yeah, let's have a chat. I want to sow out maybe, I don't know, 10, 12 containers now. Not a lot, just a little bit. Because the spot at the heater is pretty full. So I'm rotating. I'm starting to germinate a few, bring them under the lamp. And yeah, when these are gone, when they are under the lamp, I put a few new ones there. So yeah, space is limited with seedlings and all that stuff. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Just took a walk with Mika, a little one. Kami is happy, mostly. So yeah, we'll be sowing out now. So I will fill maybe 10 containers full of soil, not more, because the old soil can, that it attracts all kinds of insects, and later when you want to use it, it's not usable because you have fungus gnats in it and all that stuff. Yeah, feel like I'm probably doing the sowing out stuff in live streams now, because it saves me the work to upload it. Hey Dave, good morning. I'll be here for a while. I don't know, maybe half an hour, maybe 40 minutes. We'll see how it goes, Just trying to find a regular thing, like a routine with this stuff. That's great. Yeah, we're sowing out a little bit and just doing my regular live stream thing that I want to do now. I feel it's a great thing when you can just let the camera roll and see where it leads you, see what kind of questions come in. I always miss that on Facebook or when I'm doing videos, just getting to know people, having a chat about what matters to them, these kinds of things. I really like live stream then. It just allows a little bit more in depth, like seeing questions coming in, that kind of stuff. I really like that. So yeah, what else? There's still a lot of space under the plant lamp, so we can sow out for quite some time. I want to do this, I don't know, every few days, sowing out a few new ones. We'll see how that goes until the thing is full. Next year, maybe we're moving some seedlings out, but we'll see how they do under the lamp long term. At some point, you just get to have to bring seedlings out, face them with the sun, with morning dew, all that stuff. But for winter, that will work. Yeah, and I want to sow out some more stuff, other plants, all that, I don't know, vegetables, doing more vegetables. We have so much space here on the land. And if we don't put something there, it will just be overgrown with weeds. So I feel like we will plant a few fruit trees and shrubs this year. Okay, so now I want to get some seeds that I have here. I have boxes full of seeds, and whatever I sow out, I miss a few. Okay, so this is something that is important. This is Echinopsis glauca with a ruffled father. I've sown these out like last year, or I've harvested these last year and didn't really do a lot with it. And I definitely need to sow them out myself, because I'm sure when I have 50 seeds or so and I donate them, I will never hear from them again in many cases. So yeah, let's see. Need a piece of paper to clean my seeds here. I'm not sure where I put them. Just let me find that piece of paper. Okay, this will do. Someone's asking what I'm using, my secret recipe. Look, I think a good grower, a good breeder should be able to work with everything. Of course, you need to make sure that the pH level is all right. So even when you're using pumice, and pumice is a great medium, I like pumice. But even when you're using pumice, you need to make sure that it has the right pH level. There are just some deposits of pumice where they get it that doesn't have the right pH. So pH level should be somewhere like 6.5, something like that, you know. And my favorite soil, I like to use pumice, like washed pumice for seedlings, sometimes mixed with a little bit of sowing soil. I always had these complex mixes with all that stuff, like pumice, lava, perlite, a little bit of sand, a little like peat, and all these things. But overall, it really doesn't matter. You just have to adapt your water management. At the moment, I'm using a soil that is more organic than I ever did. In the past, I was doing a lot of mostly pumice. I had a lot of experiments with lava, and lava failed for me completely. Everything that I had in lava looked terrible, didn't flower. The plants were dehydrated because lava is just a very fast draining mineral. So if you use it in a soil and you have too much of it, the water will run through it. There's no, it just doesn't hold the water long enough for this plant to take it in. So if you go with a mineral medium, I recommend going with pumice. Pumice is perfect. But I personally move away from mineral stuff because I'm working with it all the time. You often knock over a pot, so you have this pumice and all these minerals, they surround you when you're working with them, and that is something that I really try to reduce. Having seen relatives die from lung cancer and that stuff, you know, so I try to keep the minerals a little bit on the lower side. I try to work with organic stuff when I can now, or maybe coconut fiber. That is a great medium too. You can make everything work. You just have to adapt your water schedule, how often you water. If you have something that's very organic, it will keep the water longer. It can get you in trouble over winter when the temperatures are not high enough, so the water doesn't evaporate. And so you need to make sure that whatever medium you use, it works with your environment, whatever you have. If you have a place that is super hot most of the year, a more organic medium might be better. But if you live in a place where you have mold, fungal issues, all that stuff, there's probably nothing better than washed pumice in small particles. The particles just need to be small enough for the roots to grow into. The bigger the particle size, the more problems you have. Okay, hope that answers the question. All right, yeah, this is, like I said, Echinopsis glauca. I'm a big fan of that species after seeing it flower this year. And it is a little bit similar to Chalensis. Chalensis being a weird plant where it isn't clear where it belongs completely right now. And Echinopsis glauca is very close. They might just be two different forms of the same species, but it has these beautiful flowers that are just like these beige colored sepals. Really nice flower. And it has been flowering like crazy all summer. If you combine that with a flower of like pink stripes, you could get magic. Yeah, and in this case, the cross is between glauca and a ruffled flower. I'm a big fan of these ruffled gräser hybrids. I mean, a lot of my videos show them. They are just really cool. When you see them in real life, I once saw them on photos. Like when I got started, I saw these ruffled flowers on the photos, and they didn't impress me a lot until I saw them in the real world. It's just a very impressive sight when you have a flower that's super ruffled. So yeah, I did a lot of crosses with that, where I have no idea how they will flower. So yeah, this is Echinopsis glauca crossed with Gräserserfolg and Selbstbestäubung. That is, the father is just a hybrid that has beautiful ruffled flowers, a nice color, but doesn't have the genetic problems that the original Gräserserfolg has. Gräserserfolg is a very intergeneric hybrid, and it just doesn't. Both parents are so distant that the offspring sometimes isn't genetically healthy. It gets a mutation where it closes the tip, where it stops growing, where it suddenly brings out these tiny flowers. Yeah, and that's something that you do not see on Gräserserfolg Selbstbestäubung. That is a different kind of like offspring of Gräserserfolg, but better. And I use that a lot. So yeah. Want to sow these out now? Let me see if I have labels here, tags. I was kind of slacking this year with the labels. I want to do it. I want to do better again. Want to do more like very well labeled. It's just when you're working with so many like multi hybrids that already have 5, 6 different parents involved, it just gets a very long label when you have to write all these parents on the label. At some point you are busy, you take forever. When you single them out, you need to write 10 labels, and every label needs to have 5, 6, 7 parents involved, because that's just how the multi-hybrids that we have today are. Okay. Glauca Erfolg SB. Yeah, in this hybrid, SB just means self-pollinated. It's German for the word Selbstbestäubung. That plant just sometimes pollinates itself. It's a very fertile, often self-fertile, you know. So a lot of these Gräser hybrids, when you look at the offspring that they raise, that comes from them, the offspring often looks similar to the mother, because they are often self-fertile, you know. So it took a while until these Gräser hybrids got more colorful. A German breeder called Andreas Schogadiller made some really nice crosses between these Gräser hybrids and stuff like pink stripes, these colorful, I think one of them is called Annabella or Arabella, something like that. And it has a fantastic flower, very beautiful. So I think that's where the future is of these hybrids, ruffled and in the colors like pink stripes. There are more and more of them, so yeah, it's just the natural development that you also see on hybrids like Cantora Gelb. These are old school hybrids that that have been used in other crosses, bringing out the new generation of hybrids. Everything changes all the time. So yeah, I try to do this every day, or sometimes I'm just in a bad shape, so I might not do it on all days, but I'm aiming at doing this every day around the same time. Maybe another time in the evening when I'm feeling good, but this is going to be my main streaming time. That it's like 9 in the morning for me, and that's when I usually do a little bit of work. So I want to establish this as my routine, doing these daily videos. And if you have questions, I don't care. Doesn't even have to be cactus related. I'm an open guy. I have my heart on my mouth, and I can just talk about stuff that matters to me. I don't care. I'm not I'm not a politician, I can say what I think. Yeah, let's continue. So now I have one container of these Echinopsis glauca. I'm not sure if I should sow the others out too, because I would love to give some of these away too, because it's a good cross. But I'm really worried that I end up with these not hearing anything from them after like 10 years or so, Like I said, people often lose the label. It is something that happens regularly. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe I would sow out a few more, but not all. I want to have at least a chance to give someone a few of these and sow them out, like in another, like maybe in Australia, United States, to make them a little bit more common. It's also risky when you grow all your seedlings yourself, or like a lot of them, because if you fail, then there's no backup. It's often good to have a backup. So yeah, we'll sow out a few more, and then we move on to the next cross. I could sow out every day and not run out of seeds. I still haven't washed all the seeds from the current harvest this year. It was just too many, and I need to do it soon, because there are friends of mine that I were promised that I would send a few seeds here and there, but I still need to clean them. I think I had, I don't know, 500 fruits this year that needed cleaning. So it's a lot. As a breeder, one of the things that doesn't come across probably is that you always have these seeds that you would love to sow out, but if you all keep them yourself, you will never be able to grow them yourself. So it's good for breeders to give away stuff, give away seeds. I always did that in the past, and yeah, I had some good experiences with it and some bad ones. I had experiences where I sent like 10,000 seeds and haven't heard back like from one of them. But I also had situations where I sent out a few crosses here and there, and I got great results. Plants that reach flowering age and all that stuff, So you never know. All right, take care, mate. Tomorrow at the same time, maybe in the evening, I try to make it happen at a time that works for Americans or other countries, I'll see how this goes. It's just in the morning is a time when I'm usually somewhat fit, when I have energy, and the longer the day takes, the less energy I have sometimes, but I try to do it sometimes more often than once. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Thank you. Yeah, let's continue here. I want to do another one. So these are the Echinopsis glauca seeds that I'll put aside maybe for another day. Okay, so here's a Lubivia cross over here. We need a label. This is from the same cross that I've just sown out. So this is also Echinopsis glauca crossed with Erfolgsselbstbestäubung. Yeah, sometimes I use Echinopsis names, sometimes I use other names. I'm not really, it's something that I do because it makes things easier. You know, we've always had problems with algorithms not showing certain genera names and all that stuff. So the Echinopsis names are often pretty safe to use where they are shown to people. Like on Facebook, there was a time when they didn't even show the posts with a certain genus like Trichocereus. You couldn't even say that. So things have gotten a little better, but it's still in my head. You never get it out again. So I'm trying, when I do my stuff, I try to be like to be accessible, to do it like in a way that it actually reaches people. Also with like when I used to send seeds, I always, you have to have the right name, the most current name, and that is often a name that makes it even easier. You look at customs regulations, and today a lot of these species that were formerly in Trichocereus, they are now in Sörensia. Sörensia is a genus that was described by Kurt Backeberg, a German who, at the time, he was very, I don't want to say the wrong stuff, but he also did some changes, had some opinions that were pretty unlikely to be correct. And over the years, some of his opinions have been proven by DNA testing that they're doing now. That is why a lot of plants that were formerly in Trichocereus are now in Sörensia. A genus that Backeberg actually described. But he wasn't right about everything. He also had some opinions that were very far off from what actually turned out to be the case. But Sörensia is a name that I really like today because it makes things easier. It's the most current name, and I don't know, doesn't come with baggage, Okay, so over here, I've sown out Lubivia seeds. I like to sow out Lubivia. Lubivia they are like these smallish kind of plants, but the flower colors are often beautiful. Like if you look at a hybrid called Born to be Wild, for example, they have insanely nice flowers. They are smaller, so you will not have the same experience when you look at a Lubivia flower and they are smaller. They don't blow you away like a huge flower does, but the colors are often so good that it makes up for it. So I sow them out. And Lubivia sometimes flower within 2 or 3 years. That is something that is a real plus. That is a big plus when you can make a cross and see your offspring within just 2 or 3 years. You know what plants have no long-term, where it doesn't make sense to work with them. It goes a lot faster. You look at the 2 or 3 generations that you crossed with this plant, and then you can decide if you want to stop breeding with it completely. That is something that Lubivia is great for, and I might be able to get them to flower inside the house. We will see. I like to have my plants that are flowering out in the greenhouses, but right now the space is limited, so I'm trying to grow the Lubivias inside, getting them to flower so we can select the really good crosses and get these into the greenhouse, you know. I need to change a few things because I have too many plants. Every year when you grow from seeds like we do here, you will run out of space very fast. Just one cross, if you just keep 5 plants from one cross, and you keep in mind how much space 5 plants need in a greenhouse, and that's just one cross, and a good breeder does a few hundred crosses a year. So you will run out of space very soon. We have to build a greenhouse this year. So yeah, this Lobelia Autumnreed hybrid. Hey, Kami. Kami just joined us in the stream. Kami seems to be displeased with something. Situation's really tough with an aging cat. She's getting 17 next year. Really, I underestimated how hard it is to care for an aging pet, you know. So I'm doing my best to, you know, I'm up very often at night, making sure she eats and all that stuff. And sometimes she doesn't want to eat. It's really tough. I underestimated how tough it would be. But yeah, I'm not sure if I will get another cat, because this is so hard. By the way, check out my tiny pumpkin. I actually wanted to carve this one out too, but it feels like a waste. Guy's looking great. He's on my desk, just pumpkining around. So yesterday I watched Sinners. I want to talk about this. Sinners, a great movie. One of the best movies that I've seen in the last years. Michael B. Jordan, amazing movie. Really, I loved the music. Music was great. The cinematography was great. Like camera work and all that stuff. It was a beautiful movie. I really recommend it. Like over Halloween, it has a little bit like From Dusk Till Dawn, that kind of stuff. I loved it. I'm a big, like, movies were my way into the world, kind of. I learned English just watching American movies, you know, when I was a teenager in a tiny German town. Learning English was my way to get in touch with the world, you know, with this whole community, getting to know people everywhere. And I learned English from watching The Sopranos and all that stuff, you know. So I'm still watching a lot of movies when I can. Yeah, and that one was really one of the best ones. Was very impressed. I didn't think it would be that good. It is rare that I watch a movie from the beginning to the end. At this point, like, I feel ancient, I feel old. And when I watch a movie, I often have to take a break, continuing the next day. But with that one, I watched it in one sitting. It was really good. So yeah. Okay, next one. It is so hard to sow out because all kinds of crosses could be great. You never know. Very often when you are sowing out, it is the crosses that you did not see coming. I now had the luck to see some of my own crosses from the last years, from the last 15 years. And some very simple crosses that were simple crosses on paper turned out to be amazing. Like Lobivia winteriana crossed with Echinopsis subdenudata. Or just simple crosses between a Trichocereus and candicans, like a columnar Trichocereus and candicans. They can produce amazing results, and you never know in advance, because sometimes both parents are good if you look at them separately, but together They just make a great combination. So sometimes it helps to sow out stuff that you didn't that where you don't really believe that the offspring could be great. Sometimes it pays off to take risks, especially when you're growing from seeds. And on the other hand, some of the crosses where I really had high expectations, they turned out to be disappointing. You can't plan that. Being a breeder also means you got to look at your own, all the results that you got, and integrate them into how you continue in the future. Every year you see these kinds of first flowerers where you had these amazing, insane expectations, and then you see the flower, and the flower is a letdown. That has happened to me a few times now, and it's just something you need to try it out, and it takes space. So as a breeder, you need to sometimes give away seeds just to see them. And that is why I try to make my seeds available. That is probably the main reason why I had them in the shop when I was still in the seed business. I'm very happy to have, like, I'm done with selling seeds, probably. I mean, never say never, but it's such a stressful business with lots of problems where you have like Australian quarantine, for example. A lot of problems can happen when you're shipping seeds internationally, and I'm just glad that I do not have that constant high stress level that I used to have with that. When I was shipping like 10 letters a month, there's a very high potential that at least one or two have problems locally with local import restrictions, quarantine restrictions, all that stuff. So yeah, I'm really glad that I retired as a commercial breeder, but I still try to make my seeds available as gifts. But it's a lot of work, so I need to find a system for it. And this year there were so many problems in my personal life. I don't know. There are years when things just get in between, So I could use the break that I've had now. Might be getting like back to shipping seeds to friends again soon. So now I'm cleaning the seeds again. Very often when you take the seeds out of the bag, they just have all that crushed material in them, or a little bit remnant from the fruit, little bit remnant from whatever was left when you were cleaning them. I always try, when I sow out, when I put seeds into my container, I try to have it that there's no organic material that can start a fungal infection. And I want to say one thing on camera. Growing from seeds is incredibly difficult. A lot of very popular cactus people, like in the community, they still have problem growing from seeds. That is why you always got to look at what people post. And very often people learn over their years as a breeder. I had to learn for a very long time how to grow from seeds. It's not easy. It is a very difficult thing, and yeah, but it is so rewarding. So it is worth just learning about it. Yeah, I'm just reading comments. I don't want to like say personal stuff into the camera, but I appreciate hardworking people. Someone's just on the way to work, and I appreciate you checking in, just to say hello and all that stuff. Life's tough right now. So yeah, let's continue sowing out here. This is a Pseudolobivia hybrid of a plant that I called Total Neon because the flower was insane, but it's not an official name. I was in contact with the breeder and talked about it with the breeder. The breeder didn't really want to pick a name, but I feel like it's the breeder's. It's not my right to pick a name, so I'm just like having like a work name here. But at some point, the breeder might come up with an official name. That is how I did it with Claw, with that hybrid by Uwe Kahle. Claw is a hybrid that has these beautiful red colored flowers with claw-like petals. It's a really nice flower. And yeah, I got that one from Uwe Kahle on eBay. And I asked him a few times if he wants to name it, but he never did. So yeah, so I'm just calling it Claw, but it's a Uwe Kahle hybrid, and it's one of the best that I've seen from him. The color is great, and it involves Grandiflora. Grandiflora being one of those plants that are always like people always identify stuff as Grandiflora, and it's something totally different. So you gotta appreciate the moments when Grandiflora is actually involved in a cross, you know, because it's not so often. Grandiflora is a super nice parent. You've seen it in the crosses by Misplant, all these Arboricola, Grandiflora hybrids and all that stuff. They are really good, but you sometimes have to. It's a risk. Grandiflora also produces small flowers sometimes. Sometimes it produces these one-colored flowers. So you never know what you will get. But in some cases, when Grandiflora is involved, there's magic. Like you look at the Misplant crosses, and I'm honestly not sure if the Grandiflora that Misplant uses, if that's actually Grandiflora, because it produces such great offspring all of the time, that variegated Grandiflora. But you know, hard to tell. A lot of plants that we today think are just a botanical species, they actually have a few different parents involved in their family tree, but the label is lost. You would never think that there's more than one parent involved, you know. Okay, so Total Neon. Yeah, so in the next days, I will start with the garden again. Yesterday, I moved some plants towards the cellar, and we will have to do more garden stuff over winter, taking down trees and all that stuff, and I hate it, but we need to do it. Otherwise, we have no light. When I'm looking at my videos from 2022 that I'm uploading right now, they had so much light, and that is something that I'm missing currently in my whole setting. So we need to take down trees. It's just, there's no way around it. Okay, so now we have 4. Want to do another one? So here are the remaining seeds. And I really try to keep the seedlings indoors this year. I want to keep them so I can see them, so I can keep track of them. The moment you put stuff out into the greenhouses and you have a million plants, you lose track of them. So I try to keep the seedlings indoors longer. Yeah, someone's writing about fading pens and all that stuff. I have something like this. This is a text marker. And for one, it's dried out already. I haven't used that before, or I tried using it, and it wouldn't work anymore. And a lot of these text markers, they dissolve. They dissolve when you're using a pesticide. They dissolve when you're using just alcohol. I used to spray a lot of seedlings with alcohol because it can actually work as a mild pesticide, but it dissolves all the labels instantly. I had a whole generation of crosses where the labels were just gone. And since then, it's just pencil. Nothing else. Pencil is just old school, very often the old school stuff. There's a reason why people use it. There's a reason why people use pencil. It just doesn't dissolve. But you need to, after a few years, you need to replace the label. You know? Okay. Yeah, another one who uses pencils. They are just the best. I don't know. I'm sure there are good text markers that do not dissolve, but I don't know. Sometimes you don't think about it. Sometimes you pick one and a certain pesticide still is able to dissolve it. You know, you never know. Best. I will definitely stay with pencil for the rest of my life. Maybe if I'm ever like getting rich, maybe I'll get me like one of those printer machines that print the label, but that is it. And those dissolve too, you know. Hey, someone's glad that they caught it. You know, I want to do this on a regular basis. Yeah, I just felt like you don't have that situation very often where you can be in touch with people that watch you. You know, it's something that when you're just posting videos, I mean, there's always the chance to write a comment, but responding to something, it's a whole different thing. I appreciate that. The reason I never really got into live stream was that it was so, like, with the muscle problems that I have, at some point it becomes exhausting. But I'm rather doing a few shorter ones than the super long ones, you know, and that will work. So I'm thinking about doing that at a later time in the evening when the other time zones are don't have to get up, stuff like that, or don't have to go to work. So I'm working on it, you know. Just want to do this from time to time. Right now my plan is to do it daily. But there will always be times that I miss, days that I miss when I'm a mess, you know. Yeah, someone just wrote it's 2 in the night, right? 2 a.m. Yeah, that, I mean, sometimes my time zone often worked with Australia. I'm not sure why. I don't follow the time in Australia, but when I'm up, people sometimes were at the evening, you know, where we're just spending a little time on the internet after work in the evening in Australia. So it kind of matches sometimes, but I have no clue of time zones. I think the United States are 9 hours behind or something like that. But it's all I follow. Yeah, 10 p.m. right in New Zealand. So yeah, that's what I meant. I don't know, every time when I was at the forums at SAB, all these old school Cactus forums and all, the time was just working perfectly for me from Europe. Okay, so let's continue sowing out some stuff. I have a lot of crosses with Lubivia winteriana that I want to sow out. And they are amazing. I haven't seen many Lubivia winteriana hybrids that aren't great. But one plant has like 100 flowers a year. You end up with so many small fruits that you have a hard time growing them all. But I need to, because every time when I see a plant flowering with Lubivia winteriana, it looks great. I've maybe seen 1 or 2 bad crosses with Lubivia winteriana. And it's a species that I show a lot because it looks amazing. Like the contrast is great. It can even be used on some trichocerois, you know, like as a fodder sometimes that works, and that kind of color pattern that you get from it, like that white throat, that can produce a world-class flower. There's one hybrid called Leichte Feder that is by Rolf Autenried, and I think there must be something like Winteriana involved in the cross. It's just that kind of flower color, you know? Okay, so here's more Winteriana. Yeah, and over here, we're just moving into the winter time, and I hate it. Everything's cold. Got to make sure that the greenhouses, that nothing happens in the greenhouses with the heater. It's really not my favorite season. It's great when you have a lot of money, when you can just, heat the house to like 25 degrees or something like that, and only have to go out when it's in rare cases. But when you have to be out in the garden and do work, winter is really bad. Someone's asking like the time frame between seeing what you grow, from making a cross, getting the seeds, and seeing how they will look. With Lobivia Winteriana, with Lobivia, it's maybe 2 to 3 years, or maybe 2 to 4 if you're doing it slow. With Trichocereus, everything bigger, you have a time that is sometimes 7 years, 5 to 7 years. I see a lot of my hybrids flowering first in Australia, New Zealand, and like California. These kinds of warmer climates, there the plants flower maybe a year earlier. So 4 to 7 years is a decent time for Trichocereus. So you never know. It takes a very long time until you see how a plant passes down the traits and if it's a good parent or a bad parent. So sometimes you do like consecutive years of crosses, and they all turn out bad because the plant is just not compatible in the way you thought it would be, That is something that, you gotta experiment. And with Lobivia, of course, you can see the offspring a little bit faster. It saves you a little bit time, where you can react, where you can look at the offspring and decide that you no longer want to make crosses with it, or that you, I don't know, that you want to make more crosses with it, all that stuff, But yeah, it's a long time. It's unfortunately, growing cacti is something where you have to be patient, and I hate being patient. I'm not a patient guy. Like last year, I had a moment when I brought the plants out a little bit too soon, like in the season. I was just done with winter. I didn't want to wait anymore. And then suddenly winter came back. We had like big snow. So I had to move plants again. I'm just impatient. I hate it. I don't know, growing cacti, I'm doing it despite the fact that I'm impatient. It can work. But I stopped trying to keep track of the crosses. I just make my crosses, send them out, and at some point I see the offspring. At some point, a friend of mine tags me in a post and says, hey, here's this hybrid from 2017 by Patrick, and it makes my day when it's a good one. When it's a bad one, of course, I'm always self-critical. But so far, I haven't seen that many really bad ones, because I already try to use parents where I know how they pass down. I've seen thousands of crosses by other breeders that I looked into, where I looked up the offspring, and I looked up the flowers of the offspring, so I already have a good understanding what has potential and what not. Someone's asking if I have Scopolycola spachianus hybrids. I have 1 or 2 crosses by Misplant, and they have spachianus, but I lost track of them. I think one or 2, and spachianus has a beautiful flower, a big flower. They smell nice. Spachianus has a lot of potential for breeding. A lot of people do not use it because I've heard reports that they are self-fertile. I'm not sure. I don't think they are self-fertile. I think the reports that Spachianus is self-fertile are from people confusing it with something like telegonoides, Trichocereus telegonoides, which definitely can be self-fertile. I mean, Spachianus, the name, you get all kinds of different plants under that name, But in my opinion, Spachianus has huge potential for breeding because the flowers are so nice. If you can get offspring that isn't an exact copy of that one, lots of potential. Yes, thank you. Someone commenting on the flowers. I mean, I got into cacti by just growing cacti, because nothing had flowered for me. Like where I lived, I was poor. I was so poor that I could not pay to heat the house. So I was not, for a very long time, I was not able to have a setup that allowed them to flower. So that came later, and the flower stuff just grew on me, At some point when you see a big flower for the first time, and it's a cross that you made so many years ago, like I said, that I see a lot of crosses from 2017 right now, because just the time that they often take to flower. And yeah, I just was more and more impressed. The first time I saw flying saucer, it was unbelievable. I never understood the hype that flying saucer gets. Like when you see something on a photo just does not do this flower justice. When I for the first time saw flying saucer and the flowers were like this, and there were three at once, it is an impressive sight that I never forgot. That is the kind of magic, or when you come into the greenhouse in the morning, when you are having a flower flush and you suddenly see all these flowers open at once. That is a great feeling. And it just grew on me. I never had the plan to become a breeder for cactus flowers, all that stuff. It just happened. Hey, someone's saying hello. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Yeah, just doing this on a regular basis now. So let's continue. I appreciate it. People are so nice to me. Like in the last years, it has really, I'm very happy that I'm still here, because the way I lived, I didn't think I would be here today. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that people see what I do and like it enough to comment or to write me a message. I get messages every day, and it's the type of stuff that keeps you going when you have hard times in your life, and everyone has them, we often don't talk about it, but this is the type of stuff that I really like, that I really appreciate about this, that people, you also leave something behind. Like with all these flowers, with all these hybrids, you leave something behind when you're gone. I had that discussion with Susanna Kniese, like the daughter of Karel Kniese, when he passed away. I said, look, so many people are growing plants that came from him. And that is the same thing that I say to other breeders. So many people grow stuff of these breeders. And when they are suddenly gone, and it happens fast, then the plants are still here and people still get to appreciate them. People still love them. They have joy with them. So cactus breeder, it is just my way to, to leave something behind. Someone's carving a pumpkin. That is great. I love pumpkins. They are so bad. Like a few years ago, I did a pumpkin that was so hilariously bad, but you can't do it. You can't approach it from that perspective. I've seen all these amazing pumpkins, like carved pumpkins on the internet, and I try to replicate, and it was barely noticeable. So I just said, okay, I'm doing it very basically, and it's just something that is fun, just a fun thing to do. I guess it's important to do things for me. So I'm still trying to be busy right now. Yeah, I'm just very happy that I'm still here, because I've lived pretty rough. I've had a few years where I felt like I wouldn't be here to tell the story, and right now, yeah, it's just we're losing a lot of good breeders. I just had a chat with Miss Plant about that like months ago. There are fewer and fewer of the old school breeders around, and it's just fun to do this, like to be able to have all these new tools to stay in touch with everyone who watches the videos and who appreciates what we do. It's just, that is the thing that I like about social media. And today I've become very critical of social media, but I also see the good that it does, like being able to show these amazing things, share them with people all over the world. That is something that I will really always appreciate about social media. And then like now YouTube, this YouTube thing, it just grew over 8 years. And the first years were so hard. So I can only tell everyone who tries to do YouTube, who get a foot in the door in YouTube, don't give up, because it's so much work in the beginning, because there's so many creators everywhere, skilled people. So you just need to have a long-term plan. My plan was 10 years. I approached YouTube and hoped that I would be able to grow a channel in 10 years. Sometimes, like I say, 8 to 10 years. And yeah, I was pretty right with that. Now it's starting to pick off. Now they make me partner and all that stuff. I now have all these new tools that I didn't have before. And but I underestimated how hard it is. How much time you post a great video and nobody is seeing it, because the algorithms don't show it, because there's so much competition. And that is something right now on Instagram. The same as on Instagram. I have a great account on Instagram that didn't grow in years, and it has amazing flowers. It's just a cactus account with nothing but cactus stuff. It's not the cactusjerk account. It's another one, and it hasn't grown in years because they do not show this kind of stuff to a wider audience. What they do is they pick content that is like driving engagement, that is full of the kind of stuff that drives engagement. Very often, I don't want to say clickbait, but it goes into a direction where it's engagement bait. And I feel like they should show more of this hobby stuff. It would make it easier for newer breeders to get a foot in the door, to get to a point where they do not give up. Because giving up until you've grown a channel, that is a big part. I had years where I wanted to give up, or where I stopped posting, and only now that I've seen it grow in real time, I really am happy with it. Yeah, a lot of people don't know how beautiful cactus flowers are. That is something that I see a lot in the comments. Also, like in the regular YouTube comments, people commenting about they never thought that cactus flowers could be so beautiful. And I mean, in nature, there's some really amazing flowers, cactus flowers. Lobivia winteriana being one of them, but not just that one. All these, like that queen of the night, these white flowers, or I don't know. I'm even impressed by classic botanical Echinopsis, Oxygona. They can look amazing when they have like 60, 70 flowers at once, So they're very beautiful cactus flowers in nature, and it's something, yeah, you don't see it if you aren't looking for it. And now with the time-lapse videos, I really think the time-lapse videos are opening the door to a lot of people from outside the community that see that stuff, that enjoy the videos and want to replicate it in their own home and all that stuff. I really think since I'm doing the time-lapse videos, it has gotten even more, like even better. I'm looking forward doing more next year. Yeah, a lot of people are writing nice things, and I'm humbled. You know, I don't know. Large part of my life, I had to learn to accept when people give me compliments. It is something that that I'm always happy. I mean, on one hand, I'm always happy, but on the other hand, my life is very simple. You know, I have a very basic life, and yeah, it's always great to see that people appreciate what I do. There will be many videos that I will upload throughout winter, but it's not new stuff. It's just stuff that I haven't shown before, or that I like, that where they haven't had the Reels function on YouTube, where they brought that Reels. They've been pushing Reels a lot lately, and the Reels open the door a little bit for the channel to grow, because the channel needs to grow if I want to have a chance to like continue breeding, because we need greenhouse, bigger greenhouse, and all that stuff. Life needs to get easier. Every year, from year to year, I think about retiring, because it has such a toll on my body. You know, where I work, I don't know if you've seen the setup that I have here, but I'm surrounded by jungle, and I need to keep the jungle away. And I have like tick bites every year, Lyme disease every year. So I need to I hope that the channel grows fast, that it allows me to have a better setup, you know. And that's why I post a lot of the videos now that I haven't posted before, because they are amazing. I've always recorded videos and didn't upload them. So there will be countless flower videos throughout the winter. But yeah, it's still, I was just going through like the time with Snoopy. So every now and then maybe Snoopy is visible. But I just want to show them because they are beautiful videos too. So yeah, greetings to Italy. I appreciate it. Someone writes that Oxygona looks great at like where they work, and it's true. My grandmother sent me photos of Oxygona in flower, an Oxygona that I sent her, Echinopsis Oxygona, and it looked amazing. That thing had 10 flowers. It didn't have 10 flowers when it was with me, you know. So yeah, sometimes it's the classic plants that blow you away. Botanical Trichocereus. I try to avoid names that could cause problems. So, but you know the ones that I mean, like the big flowering white flowers, the classic Peruvians. They have huge flowers, and they look insane. The first time I saw one of these in reality, it was mind blowing. And with my setup, it took very long until I get them to flower. When I got started, I moved the plants into the cellar in winter and moved them out maybe in May. And that is just often not like they often lose their desire to flower. It helps them to have a flower, like a cold winter phase. It helps them to have a drought period between, like, I don't know, October and March. It helps them to have full sun all the time. But when you have a plant that you're overwintering inside, it sometimes stops flowering. So it took me very long to have a setup where the flowering could happen with the greenhouses. Getting greenhouses opened this new door for me. And before I did that, I had a hard time getting plants to flower here too. Yeah, someone recommends like that kind of mineral diatomaceous earth. I can't even spell it, but I know what it is. I know what it is because a lot of breeders are using it. And look, it's great, it works, but it's also a mineral thing that you dust around yourself. You always got to keep in mind, the more minerals you work with, the more minerals will be crushed down, will be in the air everywhere around your workplace. So I'm at a point where I try to move to organic stuff, not because it's easier. The mineral medium is actually a lot easier and safer, but I can make it work. I know now. I know with years of experience, I can now keep them healthy no matter what. If I use an organic medium, I just need to adapt the watering. So yeah, trying to avoid minerals because they might help against ticks too. But you always gotta keep in mind that you also gotta work around that stuff. Yeah. Someone is talking about the feeling of seeing a cactus flower. Great experience overall. And it's not only that you see the flower, it is how hard you gotta work to get it. With a cactus, it's not something where you plant a plant and you can get it to flower and set seed within 1 year. These annual plants, it is so hard to not lose a plant, a cactus, from seedling to adulthood. It is very hard. So it means even more when you finally see them, when they are finally flowering. It's a big thing always for me. I often go out at night, look at the plants that are opening up in the greenhouse, already make a list of the crosses that I want to do the next day. And you can already tell at night which ones will be the best ones, and they will get the most time for the videos, they will get the most time for the streaming and all that. And next year, like in the next season, we will live stream just the flowers. I will put the camera on, live stream on, and we will just let the camera roll with the flower, maybe with the insects, all that stuff. Just trying to work with live stream and do it in a way that like has a calming experience, when you're just watching a flower in a live stream. There's so many insects here, so many birds around the house, and I want to live stream that in the future. Last season, I filmed it and uploaded the videos, but it can save me some time when I live stream it directly. Okay, so this one here is also Lobivia winteriana. I really try to sow out the Lobivia winteriana, but I need to get a little bit of water. I'm back in 1 minute. Give me a second, okay? Okay. Yeah. So we're getting close to the end with with sowing out. I want to finish these two that I have here, because it's just not good to let the soil stand around where insects can put their eggs in and all that stuff. I really dislike fungus gnats. They're a terrible pest when you have a closed container, and because when you have seedlings, you just can't open this thing up. You can't say, okay, now I will just bring the seedlings that are maybe 2 weeks old to room humidity. They will dry out, or you have to spray them multiple times a day. So I try to do it like really try to avoid problems with fungus gnats and mealybug. Mealybug is such a terrible pest. People don't talk enough about how bad of a pest they are. They are so dangerous for seedlings, and once you have them, it's almost impossible to get rid of them in a large collection. It is really hard. Okay, so let's water this a bit. Someone asking if I'm using a grow lamp. Yes, I do. I have one by Mars Hydro. One, like, it's just 150 watt. I'm not sure what that lamp is, like the TS1000 is a lamp that I have. And it's great. It makes the seedlings grow so much faster. But it's a little bit too much electricity, too much cost for seedlings. You do not need an expensive lamp like that. I just have it because it helps to get the seedlings through the dangerous first months. In the first couple months, you can lose cactus seedlings very easily. So having a good lamp helps getting them through that phase as fast as possible. That lamp costs something like $100. It's not the price of the lamp; it's the price of the electricity that you got to pay. And you could just get a lamp with that only has half the electricity costs. You do not need super lamps to grow seedlings. You can even do it without the lamp, just in front of a window. But it really helps them to grow fast, to get spiny, because they start growing spines as a result of, like, to shield against sunlight. So you already have very spiny seedlings at a young age, and that helps you. Yeah, good lamp goes a long way. Also, if you're growing other plants, like I consider growing like chili or like tropical trees. I really enjoy eucalyptus trees and all that stuff. Without a good lamp, it's very difficult, not possible. Someone's asking about heaters that just work from the sun, like solar. I haven't seen them, but I would love to have one like that. At some point, I would love to have no electricity costs, because the electricity is so expensive now. Right now, I'm paying like, I don't know, $100 just for the electricity every month. So if I can ever replace stuff with the greenhouses with solar, I will do it. It's definitely possible already, but it costs a little, just to buy the stuff. You need to be able to store the electricity. It's not enough to just collect it, because in winter sometimes there isn't a lot of light. So it's important that you can store electricity. But I'm thinking about that. I'm a big fan of not having to pay for electricity ever again. I really hate how the electricity costs have gone like way up. Someone's asking about albino seedlings, like variegated or completely like without chlorophyll. Yeah, if a seedling is completely albino, does not have any green, you will probably have to graft them. Some of them can survive on their own roots, but if they are not able to produce chlorophyll on their own, they will not make it. So you will have to graft a few. If you are not sure if they can produce chlorophyll or not, graft a few to make sure that you have some backup in case the others will slowly succumb, because they just they run out of nutrients eventually. So the completely yellow albinos, almost all of them have to be grafted to make it. And but I like the ones that produce just enough that they survive. That is the type of stuff that I personally would keep. If it can survive on their own roots, I would keep it. If not, it opens the question if it should be kept around. If something is so like weak that it can't survive on its own without being grafted. And that's the thing with all these gymnocalycium plants that have these colorful like bodies and all. A lot of them can survive on their own, and that makes them, I don't want to say worthless, but you always have to grow them grafted. It's always something. If you lose the stock, you are instantly at risk of losing the whole plant. So it's not something that I recommend, like keeping too many of. Yeah, good luck with the grafts. I really recommend grafting everything that's completely without chlorophyll. Some can survive. It is sometimes worth to try it out. Someone is asking about opening the bags. Okay, so you can do this in different ways. You can grow seedlings in bags that you keep sealed the whole time. But to be honest, you always have to bring in a little bit of oxygen. I don't think that you can keep them closed forever. You at some point you just need to open them up to let a little bit oxygen in, or at least to make sure that you don't have one seedling that contaminates the whole thing. Growing in a bag that will remain sealed for months is not easy, and very often it is done with mineral soil. The people who keep them in closed bags and don't open up, they have a very fine mineral medium, because in an organic medium you often get like moss, algae, like all this green stuff, like I don't know what they are called, lesions and all that stuff. You often just get like stuff covering the soil, or the soil turns bad over the time, or you need to open up to bring in nutrients, a fertilizer, because when a seed germinates, the seedling has energy for maybe 4 weeks, maybe a little bit longer, and after that it only gets what you have in the soil, and that can go away pretty fast too. So at some point you need to open up, either to look into problems, to let in oxygen. That is something that is often recommended when sowing out, checking the plants on a regular basis. No one does it daily, but weekly is a good thing, because at some point you will have that container that is full of healthy seedlings, and there's one seedling that you lose, and it kickstarts a fungal infection that eats up the whole thing within weeks. And you need to be able to spot that. And sometimes you don't see it through the closed bag. You need to open up, need to look at the seedling from all sides and all that, you know? Yeah, I open up my bags every now and then. But there's no firm rule. If everything goes great, if they do not look like malnourished, keep them closed. Never change a winning team. But at some point, a little bit of oxygen in the bag can really help. Because otherwise, you have this stale air. A lot of humidity can always lead to fungal infections. I appreciate it. So yeah, let's continue here. I completely forgot what I've sown out here. What was this? I don't know. You see, this is when you're doing videos, it was probably Lobivia winteriana, but I'm not sure. I don't care. Okay, so we're doing the last two, and then I'm calling it like quits for now, but I will do another one soon. Like I said, I'm aiming at doing this at the same time every day when I have energy. Every morning I have that 1 hour where I feel really good, where I feel young again, and then we're doing that. Yeah, Lobivia, yeah. I think it was Lobivia winteriana. But it doesn't matter. At some point they will show, you will see in the body. I have reached the point where I believe I can very often, if there are traits of both parents in a plant, I can see it. Also because I work with the same kind of plants, so I know when I get a certain body type, what kind of parents are probably involved, like what kind of father is probably involved. Yeah, but when you also forget the mother, it gets difficult. Okay, so this is Humkes Roro. Humkes Roro is a great multi-hybrid. The body looks like an Echinopsis, but it also has Hildewintera involved. A very good hybrid that I often make crosses with, that I do not sow out, just because I don't know, I'm overwhelmed with seeds. But I need to do more of that. every time I see offspring of Humcus roro or Lobivia winteriana, I regret that I haven't sown them all out. Okay, so Humcus roro, open pollinated. Some of these Lobivia had so many flowers that I didn't keep track of the fathers. But I want to do it more again next year. This year it got too much. I recorded the parents in my videos, so I can theoretically I can go back and look them up. But it's something that takes a lot of work that you usually never do. So next year I'll do more labeling again. This is the worst kind of can that I have, the watering can. Everything is wet. Yeah, the whole table is wet. I'm not sure where it's leaking water, but it's leaking water somewhere. But I like it. It's just, it's like a little bit like me. It's a little bit broken. It's a little bit old, but it still does the work, It just knows the trick. Okay, last one. So let me see what we have here. I have so many Lobivia, and they are all good. Like they all sound great on paper. On one hand, I want to stop breeding so many Lobivia. On the other hand, when I see the flowers, I always think, wow, I should have made more crosses like that, I now have one greenhouse full of Lobivia, and it's an important greenhouse that I used to use for other seedlings. So on some days I really regret sowing out so many Lobivia. On others, I'm very happy about it. It's just something you can easily create a world-class hybrid with 2 Lobivia without having a great setup. If you just want to get started, just experimenting to make crosses, look into Lobivia or pseudo Lobivia, these highland Echinopsis. They flower easily, they flower fast, and they don't need a lot of like a super expensive setup. It's a very rewarding kind of plant. But long term, I mean, when you look at the flower, the big Trichocereus flowers are just more impressive. Still, it will always be, you have a big flower, it often has a different kind of impression. You can see that when you look at Lobivia hybrid Blaze. Blaze is a classic hybrid, classic Lobivia hybrid, but the flowers are so small, So you see them, you see the amazing color, you like that, but the size is just so small that that the brain isn't so blown away as it is when you are seeing a big Trichocereus flower. Okay. So today I've mostly sown out Lobivia. I think tomorrow we will do more Trichocereus again. We just put this in the bag. So yeah, like I said, long term for the future, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer. I'm not even limited to cactus stuff. I'll comment on life. I've become an old person. I can give you my old person life advice. I've been going through ups and downs. I've seen it all. I feel like finally now I'm at a spot in my life where I am old enough to judge about stuff like what's going on in the world, see stuff that starts like I try to be more like to air out the things that are important to me. In the future, I want to do more like animal protection stuff. I started supporting a lot of non-profits that just support animals in need, all that stuff. You know, these are the things that I want to do more. I want to do, like, I don't know, work on change, positive change and all that stuff. So I'm not limited to cactus stuff. I'll do these live videos around the same time. It's roughly 9 in the morning where I live, not between 9 and 10 in the morning. So if you miss this or miss out on this one, just join on another time. Yeah, someone's writing, I need more greenhouses. Yeah, I mean, at some point you run out of, like, you can only care for so many, you know? So I need a bigger greenhouse, but after that, there's a limit, you know? You can't scale up endlessly because you will have to water them all the time. You have to repot them all the time. But I right now work with very small greenhouses, 10 square meters greenhouses. So long term, when the channel grows, we will build a great greenhouse here. Maybe we will, I don't know, maybe I will at some point make a deal with a greenhouse manufacturer where I say I will build this thing on camera, and they will just donate us the greenhouse, something like that. We might be able to do that. That is the plan long term. Yeah, someone, look, I'm approaching 50 now. And when I was 18, 19, 20, I was a fool. When I look back at things that I did early in my life, like arguments that I had with people or just life decisions, it took me a long time to come to conclusions. It's the type of stuff. Life is just, you live and you learn. You go through something, you see things that you need to see with your own eyes. You just need to find out what is important for you in your own life. And when I was young, I always thought that I would be so wise for my age. But sometimes you have to live through difficult times to become a character. And I've become what I am today through making all these life experiences. I got into the community as a young man, you know, so I kind of grew up over the years. So I don't know, my advice for young people is just look with your own eyes, try to see things with your own eyes, travel if you can, try to meet people from other countries, because there's true wisdom is the stuff that you learn from someone who has had to work their whole lives on a field, who lives in a completely different country, who comes from a completely different background. That is something that I would change about my life. You know, I would, if I had the chance, if I hadn't been poor at that point, I would travel more. I would get to know more people, talk with people, opening a discussion, try to find out the most enlightening stuff that I today hear is from totally normal people or people who have had a rough life, and they can often give you very interesting points of view. They can tell you about stuff that school doesn't prepare you. You know, we are going all, we all have these phases in life, and it helped me a lot. And today I try to, when I do my videos or whatever I post, I try to, like, send that back into my videos. I just, at some point, you have a lot of life experience when things are being difficult. They say, like, suffering builds character, and you know, in a way it's true, but I wouldn't want people to have the same experience, you know. But learn from people. There's so many, also in this hobby, in this community, there's so many skilled breeders, skilled young people out there that have these amazing channels now or accounts, and you can learn a lot from the stuff that they say in between, where they show their true character, if they are a good person or not, all that stuff, you know. Okay. Yeah, someone writing about traveling Europe. Europe is great. Europe is a great place to see, but times are changing. I grew up in the 80s, 1980s, 1990s, and Europe was always a special place, but we see a lot of changes in Europe right now, the same changes that we see in the United States. We need to make sure it stays like that, you know? We need to make sure that people can still travel and be welcomed, you know, all that stuff. And yeah, but Europe is great if you have the chance. I will never forget being in Paris. Paris is a great city, just with all the insane like buildings, all these ancient like churches and cathedrals and all that stuff. Or Italy. Italy is such an amazing place. I was in Sicily, and it was impressive. There was nothing really there, but it was just a completely different way of life that I will never forget. Okay, so yeah, I think I will end this now, but I love this. Today was the first live stream where I really had fun, where I really starting to feel like the medium. So we will do this again. I'm not sure when, maybe in the evening, maybe tomorrow. But if you have questions, just hit me up. And thank you everyone for being here, for writing comments and all that. I appreciate it. And yeah, we will do this again. Thank you.